This is news from Mumbai. Prime Minister Modi is set to commission 3 frontline naval combatants today at Mumbai's Naval Dockyard. The vessels include INS Surat, a Visakhapatnam-class destroyer, INS Nilgiri, a stealth-guided missile frigate, and INS Vaghsheer, the 6th submarine of the Scorpion class under Project 75. These inductions aim to bolster India's maritime capabilities and underscore nation's commitment to self-reliance in defense manufacturing.
Right, Radhika, of course, the Prime Minister took to social media platform ahead of the event and said commissioning of 2 made-in-India warships and a submarine on the 15th, that's today, would strengthen our efforts towards being a global leader as far as defense and augment our quest towards self-reliance. Later in the day, the Prime Minister will also be inaugurating the ISKCON Temple, and that's going to be taking place in Navi Mumbai, spanning 9 acres. This temple is poised to be in Asia's 2nd largest ISKCON temple. And to know more on this, we have my colleague Vishnu joining us. Vishnu, take us through what's on the agenda. What's the plan with the Prime Minister there commissioning 3 naval ships?
Well, this is a very important day because it's not often that the Navy commissions 3 ships all together, 2 ships and 1 submarine in this case. Remember, it takes several years for a single warship to be manufactured, to be produced, and India has been notoriously slow in that. But over the last few years, on the back of several orders which have been placed, the pace at which warships are actually being constructed has gone up significantly. Now, one of the ships is a frigate of the INS Nilgiri, the Nilgiri as it is. It becomes INS or Indian Naval Ship gets added once the commissioning takes place. So Nilgiri is the first ship of a new class. Both Nilgiri, the destroyer, which is the Surat, and the submarine Vaghsheer have all been built in India. As far as the destroyer is concerned, the INS Surat, it is one of the most advanced warships of its class anywhere in the world. It has a 75% indigenous content. The submarine, the Vaghsheer, is the final Scorpion-class submarine to be built in India. The Scorpion class is a French design, but all the 6 submarines of the class, including Vaghsheer, were built at Mazagon docks. But to me, as somebody who's followed the evolution of Indian naval shipbuilding in the last 30 years, I can tell you that the Project 17A frigate, the INS Nilgiri, is what excites me most. It's got several new features. It's equipped with BrahMos cruise missiles. It's got a very advanced Israeli-based radar set. It's called the MF Star, which can track targets at very long ranges, both from for targets on the air, on the ground as well, through different sensors. And therefore this represents a significant capability at a time when China seems to be making significant inroads in the Indian Ocean by basing ships, not least of all in Djibouti, which is their first overseas military base.
Right, Vishnu, also I wanted to ask you, how do these commissioning reflect India's progress towards self-reliance in defense manufacturing, and what role will these 3 play within Navy's operational framework?
Well, indigenization is something which is a bit of a buzzword, but it does have to be said that it varies from service to service and system to system. But as far as the Indian Navy is concerned, what we have been able to achieve over the last 20 years in terms of the manufacture of warships has been extremely commendable. As I mentioned, the destroyer Surat, which is being commissioned today, has a 75% indigenous content, which is remarkable because, other than the engines, which are of Ukrainian origin, the gas turbines, you've got a large number of the sensors, which are Indian. You've got the actual design, which is Indian. You've got the integration, which is entirely Indian. Several other weapon systems, which are Indian as well. So it's an area where we have achieved a certain amount of proficiency. And I think the key point over here, Radhika, and I think it's important to note, is that when you buy a weapon system from outside, in most situations, these are not custom made for you. There are certain specifications which are available. You make an order and you buy it. Over here, this has been designed by naval designers. It's been manufactured in Mazagon docks. It involves Indian industry, and yes, certainly certain key imported components. But the product itself is based on the specific requirements of the Indian Navy. So it is built in India for the Indian Navy to Indian standards on the requirements in the Indian Ocean region. So that's what makes the indigenization effort very significant. Now, all three warships today, the Surat, the Nilgiri, and the Vaghsheer, of course, is a submarine, have been built in India. And therefore, there's an ecosystem which is created of job manufacture, of ancillary industries. There are thousands of jobs which are generated for every single warship or submarine which is constructed. And, these are skills which evaporate or disappear over a period of time, which is why the Navy keeps saying that there needs to be a constant flow of orders to ensure that the skills which are developed in the construction of submarines particularly, or of warships, does continue. And very briefly, to answer your question on where this fits in operationally, China, as I mentioned, has a growing stake in the Indian Ocean region. Pakistan is set to receive several new Chinese-built warships. Therefore, the Indian Navy, which enjoys operating off our peninsula, which is an advantageous position in the Indian Ocean region, would gain significantly through the addition of these new ships at a time when we see the Chinese deploy, for example, warships and research ships in our waters.